Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I could just ask you all now to please take your seats. If I could also remind everybody to either switch your phones to silent or completely off, that would be great. Gentlemen, before you get completely settled, could I just ask if you would all just stand for a photo? The photographers can then go off for lunch. But if I could just ask you all to stand for a photo so the photographers can take some photos before the press conference starts. Is that okay? Just stand together behind there. Great, thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, this has become, of course, now a traditional press conference. Here we are at round 10 of the Motogp World Championship, our first half of the season assessment. Here with us today, we have HRC Technical Manager Takeo Yokoyama, YMC Motogp Group Leader and 2018 YZR M1 Project Leader Kuji Suya. We have Ducati Corsa General Manager Gigi Delinia, MotoGP Project Leader and SMC Racing Group Manager Shinichi Sahara. We have Aprilia Racing Manager Romano Albasiano and KTM MotoGP Technical Director Sebastian Rieser. I'll be asking each of the gentlemen here just one question each about the season so far, and then we will open it up to the floor. Thanks, Paolo. Okay, we will start off with Honda and Takeo Yokoyama. The 2018 Honda seems to be a big improvement on the 2017 bike. 6 wins for Honda so far in the 9 races at the start of the year. Mark has a 46-point advantage as well. Has this exceeded your expectations?
Well, exceeded? No, obviously, because we are always very demanding. We are greedy. We want to win all of the races, which didn't happen in the first of the season. But in general, yeah, I mean, we have been doing not so bad. It's okay. 6 wins from 9. So yeah, it's okay. But we have to stay focused because we still have 10 more races to go, and yeah, we will try to keep improving the bike until we reach our goal.
Thank you very much. Move now on to Yamaha and Kuji Suya. Positives and negatives so far in 2018 for Yamaha. There's been a Yamaha on the podium in every single race so far, but no win now since Assen of last year. How would you summarize how the season has gone for you so far?
Of course, it's a great shame for us not to be able to win in the first of the season, but I think maybe it just means our bike is not at the level to win so far.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to quickly Gigi Delinia now and Ducati. Highs and lows for Ducati as well, I suppose. The 2018 Ducati seems like a better all-round package. Obviously a great win for Andrea Dovizioso at the start of the year, the 2 wins for Jorge Lorenzo, but Mark seems a bit far away, I would imagine, for your own liking in the championship.
Yeah. That's for sure true, you know. I'm quite happy about the improvement that we did on the technical aspects of the bike. Above all, in the 2 races where we struggled quite a lot in the past, like Sachsenring and Assen, we were quite competitive. So on the technical point of view, I'm quite happy, for sure. I'm not so happy about the results that we did, because I think that we had better results. We did some mistakes, but you know, this is the race, and we have to accept that. So quite happy, but at the same time, you know, we can did better.
Thanks very much to you, Gigi. We move on now to Shinichi Sahara and Suzuki. 4 podiums in 2018 so far, but there has been at times a bit of inconsistency from Alex and Andrea. All in all, though, the Suzuki looks in really good shape in 2018. Are you pleased with the development of the bike?
Yes, yeah, technical point of view, I'm quite happy with current bike, also the improvement from last year to this year. And as you say, we need more consistency to have good results, including rider performance. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on now to Aprilia and Romano Albaciano. It's been a tough season so far, I think it's fair to say, for Aprilia, for both Aleix and Scott. Some bad luck along the way also, though. Do you feel Aprilia are making the steps forward that you are looking for?
We did a step forward actually from last year, but our competitors, some of our competitors did a bigger step. And this, together with some mistakes we did all together, led to this unsatisfactory beginning of the season. We see in some performance more and more along the season that we are not far, so we are keep pushing, and we hope to have a second part of the season at a different level.
Thank you very much, Romano. Finally, we come over to the far end there, and we speak to Sebastian Rieser of KTM. As a team, KTM have 25 more points at this stage than the same stage last year. Bradley and Pol continue to develop well and their progress on the KTM. Are you satisfied where KTM are right now, or had you expected more at this stage?
Well, I mean, we really look at it from two sides. On the one hand, there's been huge improvements. That doesn't seem so difficult because we started from scratch. But anyway, when you compare to last year, we cut the gap short, we improved the pace. On the other hand, the others also did. And sometimes they did more than us. So actually from the positions, we had really outstanding second half of last season. And to top this was not possible up to now. Of course, that's a target, but we don't have in hand what the others are doing, and we just have to keep working.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. That's it from me, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Over to the floor now for questions, please.
I have a question for Takeo-san over here. Takeo, it's no doubt that the Honda has started very well. The results are there, but is still a homework to do that other riders can win with your bikes, because we see that Mark is leading the championship, but the second Honda rider is quite far in the world standing. Is this homework?
I mean, just simple question, yes. But I mean, if you look at the championship points, yes, I would say Mark is the only guy to be really in the front. On the point, yes. But actually, if you look at the competitiveness of the new bike, I think I mean I can see in a little different way. I mean, starting from Danny, he was riding really good in the winter time testing season. Then, of course, once the season have started, he had bad lucks in Argentina and also in Jerez, and for the future contract has been in his mind. And I mean, something was really missing for him to be in front of the point championship point. And also, I think everybody knows that Carl is on the same bike. I mean, in the 2018 bike, and he has been always very fast, very competitive. It's just he's missing a little carefulness not to lose so much points. I mean, until now he had 3 times 0 point, and that's why he looks to be a little behind. But purely from the competitiveness, he's not that bad. So, yeah, overall, I mean, it's true that we want both Danny and Carl to be more in front, which is not happening. So I would say there is still homework that we have to do. But the reality is not as bad as it looks like.
A question for all of you, if possible. This is the 3rd year of Michelin. How far do you feel that your bike is adapted to the Michelins? Are you happy with that your bike is working as well as possible with the tires, or do you still need to adjust?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, compared to the beginning of the Michelin tire, the new generation of Michelin time, of course we have adapted quite well. And it's coming to a point that it will be more difficult to make a bigger step than the beginning of this time. But still, I mean, it's always a combination. The tire is there, but we also change the bike all the time. And we always need to readjust everything, I mean, from the engine character, the chassis, the electronics, everything. So it will be never ending.
Yeah, you know, I'm honestly quite happy about the overall performance of the tire. I think now the situation is quite stable. We know the tire that we have to use for all the season, and this tire more or less are similar than last year tires. So at the moment the situation is quite stable. And honestly, I'm quite happy about the overall performance. We have no any big problems. For sure, sometimes the situation are quite difficult, but you know, this is, I think, normal. Depending on the weather condition, depending on the racetrack, because sometimes above all after the new asphalt, some racetracks are quite demanding on the tire, but honestly, we didn't see any big problem.
Okay, for us it's same. Michelin reached a good level of stability in performance, in quality of tires, so is the same for everyone. So is the adaptation of the bike to the tire is, we believe, is quite okay. Of course, we have to improve some points of. We believe we don't exploit the tire 100% in every condition. This is a point where we need to improve.
I think. Okay. All right. I think we don't have any significant problem with tires, but we try to adjust the spec of the bike to have additional feedback from front. But this is not only for tire, but also our riders' riding style, also our bike character. We need to adjust those things. I have decided some changing the specification.
But for us also, we think recently the Michelin tire performance and durability, reliability, quality, everything is okay. But sometimes sometimes difficult to get the good rear grip for our bike. In that case, we are struggling a lot. But maybe we have to adjust our bike to the tires, for sure.
KTM does not have a reference. We started our project on Michelin. What we do see is that sometimes our bike with the tire allocation we have is working out of the normal window. We're working on this to make it work more universal and more in the middle of the allocation. And of course, to understand, to analyze the tire in a quicker way so you can make earlier the right decision is an ongoing process on our side.
A question for Yokoyama-san. We can see that your bike, especially this year, works very well with the aggressive riding style from Mark and Carol. Next year, you're getting a different rider, Lorenzo, who's got a very different style. With Ducati, they had to develop the bike quite differently for him before he could start to win, not only ergonomically. What do you anticipate when Lorenzo comes? How much different development will you be prepared to do? How much will you make a different bike for him compared with Mark?
I mean, of course, we are aware that the Lorenzo's riding style is quite different from what Mark is doing, for example. We are aware of this. But of course, until he try our bike, our package, which is doing not so bad, as I said at the beginning, and we will never know exactly what we should do. But I'm very confident that as a company, as Honda, as HRC, we can adapt to any kind of riding style. I mean, Lorenzo is clearly a strong champion, and I'm sure that he can give us good feedback. And based on the feedback, I'm confident that we can make the very good bike for him. So, how much different bike we have to make, I don't know. I cannot say until he start riding our bike.
Hello. I have a question for Tsuya-san. There was a lot of talks last year about what Yamaha should do to kind of make the next step and win again, and also the feedback from the riders to the media was quite confusing at times, with Maverick saying it's electronics, Valentino saying he knows what it is, it's a small thing. And I wonder, have you been able to get to the bottom of the problem, and what are you doing to well, fix it, improve it? What is exactly the thing that is maybe holding you back a little bit? And the second part is, are you considering involving a European rider or a former MotoGP rider in the testing program now, since there is a lot of going on the transfer market, and there are people like Bradley Smith or Arvalo Bautista, very experienced, without the right potentially for next season? How does it really look behind the scenes? Thank you.
Yes, we have some problems for both riders. Sometimes the situation is different. Sometimes we had problem with the braking, sometimes the acceleration, sometimes the turning. But right now we think we have to concentrate to improve the acceleration. Also by electronic and also the chassis wise. But unfortunately, we cannot change the engine configuration. So this is homework for next year. And regarding the test rider, like now that I can say nothing about that. But it should be the better situation to develop with more fast rider. Clearly is better. So we think about it.
Question to Tsuya-san. In 2019, we're going to see some new regulations regarding electronics, especially the IMU. Do you think it's going to help Yamaha to become more competitive?
Honestly speaking, I don't think so. The situation will be equal to everybody, and we don't hope the IMU can help the electronics, because unified IMU for next year, our current IMU, we believe that is better than the unified IMU for next year. So maybe on the other hand, at least we can keep the current performance, but we don't think it can help us recently.
I also have a question about a test team for Romano. Is the fact that the test team at the moment is maybe not as highbrow as the competition, is that a logistical thing, or is there a different reason why the test team of Aprilia is not, let's say, employing the fastest rider available?
For me, if you want to have a test team able to do, let's say, wild card at a decent level, first you have to hire the right rider. No? And we are trying to do so for next year. This is a plan for next year. If you don't have this kind of rider, you have to make a big step and accept to have a test team that is good for basic development, like mileage accumulation, testing some new devices, reliability, things like that. This is what we have now, but for the future, we need to make a step in this direction. So we are trying to hire a proper MotoGP rider for doing this job.
Question for the KTM technical director. When you came last year, you were the only manufacturer with a screamer engine after also Honda switched to the Big Bang, then immediately switched also to this order. Now you are the only manufacturer with a not aluminum chassis. Are you still working on this, on the chassis that you have now with good results, or do you think that in the future you can experiment another way?
I mean, basically regarding the engine, that was just a very logical decision. You have to have a starting point. The starting point for this project was set some years ago, and there the MotoGP world looked a little bit different. Many riders were with a similar engine configuration successful, and rather Big Bang was an outstanding aspect. Yeah. On the other hand, regarding the chassis, this is also logical. This is not just based on a let's say a general belief. This is because we are sure at the moment we can be more competitive with a steel frame than with an aluminum frame, because we don't see the material to be the performance defining aspect in the first hand, but the manufacturing process, the understanding how you can make something, analysis approaches, etc. And that's where we have our experience, and we believe this experience is good enough to step by step lead us where we want to be. But it takes time, that's clear, and it's not a shortcut in terms of having to do less frames to be competitive.
And a question for Gigi. Gigi, you said that you are satisfied with the development of the bike. Where do you see that something is missing this year? In the engine, in the chassis, in the distribution of the power, in the aerodynamics?
Honestly, we would like to improve a little bit more on the turning of the bike. For sure, this remains our problem. For sure, we reduce the gap with our competitors without lose in any other part, in any other riding part, you know. So these remain our focus for the future, and we have in mind something, but this takes time to test it and to put on the racing bike. So anyway, we are quite confident that we can close a little bit more this gap and to have a better bike for the future.
I would like to know which is your opinion about the actual rules of aerodynamics, and from each of one of you, where do you think you can bring aerodynamic? If you agree with actual rules, if you want to have different rules about aerodynamics. Romano?
You mean the actual rules or from the next year rules?
From the actual to the next.
Okay.
You want to bring aerodynamics, you want to stop, to go down, to change?
Our opinion is that aerodynamics is a positive device for safety on a motorcycle. This is our. I know some other manufacturers have different idea. Anyway, we believe so. So we are positive about using the aerodynamics in MotoGP, except the point that there is a risk of huge increase in cost development, because we know that this is possible. This is what could happen if there are no limitation. So from next year there will be more limitation. The number of configuration allowed will be more clearly defined, so will be much lower. And okay, the balance for the future is this one. We hope that anyway there will be no cost explosion. This is our only concern.
Honestly, I think that we have talked too much about the aerodynamics of the bike. For sure, it's something new. It's something that in the past never exist at this level on the racing bike. But anyway, I think that we talk too much, and above all, we change the rules too much. You know, the stability of the rule is one of the must that we have to take in mind for all the rules, and we we change the aerodynamics rule every single year, starting from 2016. So, I'm, difficult to speak again about aerodynamics. For sure, on the safety level, the aerodynamic is really important on the bike. I think that, for example, an accident like Piro in Mugello with a proper aerodynamics doesn't happen. So I think that the aerodynamics is really important for the safety of the bike, and that's it.
For the point of safety, I would agree what Gigi from Ducati said. Safety is the main issue. And we have been discussing about this, with organizer and inside the manufacturers. But basically, now there has been a regulation which doesn't allow you to use anything protruding from the streamline of the fairing. This is the wording from the regulation book. But anyway, when we discussed the modified regulation for next year, we were discussing about this and what is protruding, what is a streamline like this, because these sentences were made to improve the safety, and safety for us mean what is happening on the external surface of the fairing. So, if something is sticking out of the fairing, it can be dangerous for the other riders, for contact or for crash like this. And that's why for next year we have discussed to reduce the space of the fairing that you can play with, and that's why also we don't care at all. Whatever you do inside the external surface. For example, people could have double surface or make the tunnels to make the airflow for the aerodynamic effect like this. This is fine for us. But what is important is what is happening on the external surface of the fairing, because it's the safety. And from our point of view, we should stay very strongly on the safety.
From safety point of view, the current shape for every manufacturer is safety enough, I think. It's true that the big accident was not happening now. And also the cost point of view, honestly speaking, the budget to develop the aerodynamics for these years basically didn't change for Yamaha. The same level, we could keep the same level to develop the aerodynamics for these days. And but what we want now is sometimes the current regulation is not clear, the shape. Sometimes very aggressive. Some manufacturer is a very simple one. Sometimes changing a lot. So for next year, for that, the MSMA is now talking about making the detail of the shape more clear now.
The next year's rule for aerodynamics is okay for us. I think good balance. And of course, we will continuously improve, develop that area of aerodynamics. But like Mr. Darinia said, we need more stable rule of stability of the rule. This is my opinion.
Well, in our opinion, if you would have shown to us when the current regulations came in place, photos of the bikes, how they look now, we sitting here, I think to 80% would have said, this is not inside the rule. It is. The interpretation space of the current regulation is very wide, and for us it was really important to narrow this down so we can be more sure in development if something is correct or not, and we are happy for the way the rules are taking in this.
Yes, this is a question for the KTM, Yamaha and Ducati representatives. It's about next year we have an E category in the championship. I have two questions. One is, do you think in the future this could be a good scenario for your brands? And the second one, if in the future also you can see somehow a hybrid engine like we see in Formula One or something like this?
For sure, the e-bikes, I don't know if will be the only option for the future, but for sure is an option for the future, and we have to understand what happens in this world. So we will follow these new categories and this new bike. But you know, I have not a clear vision about the e-bike for the future. So I don't know when they will comes in the market. You know, for the hybrid, I think it's too expensive for this world at the moment, and so I don't think this kind of engine will come in the MotoGP bike.
So for Yamaha, we think maybe the e-bike would be the one option for the future, not hybrid. And this year, the Yamaha joined the electric trial race this year. That's why we are thinking about the electric bike for the future, for sure. Also for the racing.
Yeah, basically, I mean, KTM is active in this area already for quite a while. We see already in some areas of motorcycles, electric bikes are taking a bigger and bigger share. This is very closely related to the technology that is available. You need a certain range for certain motorcycles. And I think the further this development goes on, the more technology is available, the more this will be spread out. To really talk about MotoGP, I think we have to speak in another 10 years what happened technically. But basically we see part of the future of motorcycles is definitely in this, yes. We would be really rather in an electric bike than a hybrid, just because of complexity. One thing about motorcycles that's nice is they are rather simple comparing to a car in terms of amount of components, etc. And I think that's a strong point we would like to keep.
I would like to ask Takeo about Cal. He's on a factory contract this year. Is this just, let's say, a reward for the hard work he put in for HRC in the previous season? Or is he even more involved this year? Can you say a little bit more about the relation between HRC and Cal this season?
Was it a reward or the relation between rider and HRC?
Is the factory contract for Cal, is this a reward only for what he did in the previous season, or is he even more involved in the work of HRC, in the development, and if so, how does that work exactly look like?
I mean, obviously, it's not only a reward. I mean, he pretty much deserved to be an HRC contracted rider because he's a hard worker. He's fast. He understands the bike. He can give us very good feedback, and also the team is really good. The LCR Honda. So from this circumstance, from the environment, I mean, we decided, like, it's better to work with 3 riders instead of 2, only in the factory. And yeah, I'm not really sure if I am answering you in a correct way. But purely, I mean, he deserves the HRC contract. Yeah.
Question also for you. Mark said that this year's bike is less good in some places compared to last year's, and much better in the negative things that last year bike had. Which can you explain to us which from the strong points are less now, and the bike is more user friendly, let's say?
Well, the strong point, I mean, what we have improved is, I believe, on the acceleration, because I think you could see that in the last years we were quite behind on the acceleration side, I mean, compared to the other manufacturers. And we decided, okay, because we are Honda, we cannot stay like this. Let's make a big effort for the acceleration. We have not achieved to the same level as some of the manufacturers, so we need to keep going, and we will do. But anyway, that's the most improved point, I believe. On the other hand, maybe we have lost a little I mean, because acceleration is from the engine performance, how to use in the best way the tire like this, and sometimes we need to sacrifice probably the agility or the stability or the easiness of the throttle control like this. I mean, of course, it would be better to improve just on the acceleration without sacrificing anything, but it didn't happen for us. We are trying to compensate and trying to be at least on the same level for the points that we have gone backward compared to last year. But it's always like this. It's like a trade-off. I mean, you gain something, but you have to lose something, and in the middle of the season, you try to recover the lost point, and that's the situation.
Another KTM question. Among the heresies that KTM has is the direction of rotation of the crankshaft. It's the only one we believe that goes forwards. What can you confirm about the reverse crank engine that Cadio raced earlier this year? What's the progress? Will it be introduced this year? Next year?
I mean, basically, I cannot confirm anything about this bike specification. It was a basic research that we did, and we decided when we had the first positive results to take it racing as soon as possible, also to have our GP riders go on it and try. Although we knew some points were not ready yet to take it into a race team, because the demand for wildcard or taking it for a season racing is very different regarding durability, regarding performing in all different kinds of conditions with different tires on different tracks, etc. And this is aspects that we have to work on. So although I cannot confirm what this bike was, we believe this is a future and we work on it. But in the end, although there was already a schedule announced at some point, for us it's not the calendar that counts, it's the rider that says this bike is ready, and it's the reliability, and we're working on these aspects.
A question for Takeo-san. Takeo, going back to my first question, it's a very straight one now. Who does win for Honda? Is it the bike or is it Marquez at this moment? Because without Marc, it would be quite a difficult situation. And another question regarding with this, did you hire Lorenzo to try to find someone who can win also on a Honda, not only being Marc?
What was the second one? You were talking about about Jorge. Yes. For the first question, it almost sounds like you want me to answer Marc, but I wouldn't do. Because in motorcycle racing, it's always what is important is the package. You know? Of course, we need a good rider, then a good bike, but also a good team. And in the last years, when Marc is winning the titles, I mean, everything is more or less matching okay. That's why. I mean, that's the only reason why he can win the titles. It's not only the rider. For the second question, yeah, I mean, Jorge was available for next year's contract. That's why we just took this opportunity. And he's a champion, and he will be strong. If we can make a good package for him, because rider is fast already, we will make the bike. Okay, we do have the bike, but we can adapt our bike to him into the maximum level. And if we can make a good team, sure we can fight for the title with Jorge also.
Takeo, last year's Honda used to make like a big step for the second part of the season. This year, with the actual test regulations, you couldn't have those tests you had last year in the summer break. I don't know is this gonna affect you? Do you expect to make also a big step, or this year you have a good evolution and there's no more to come?
Of course, I'm hoping to make another time the big step. You will see what happens in the rest of the 10 races. I mean, about the testing in summer break, we were testing here in Brno actually at the beginning of July, and we tried some new parts, new material, of course, and then it's going to be used in the second part of the season. And of course, it's too early to say that these new materials would make a big step or so-so step. This we have to wait and see, because at the end of the day, it's also related to what the other competitors are doing. I mean, the racing is just a relative competition, so we will see. But actually, what we are trying to do this year is exactly the same as what we were doing last year.
Okay, that concludes our press conference from today. Thank you, gentlemen, very kindly, and good luck for the rest of the season. Thank you.